Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Here we go. Your dial set correctly, too. USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us. Jason's engineering the broadcast. If you'd like to call us and talk with Dr. Shealy, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is up and running, 712-770-9418. 712-770-9418, provided by Global Star. Thank you, Global Star. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes, on this dull day with nothing new's happening.
Nothing new is happening. I was going to say, so Dr. Shealy, what's new in your world? Oh, man.
You know, it's
so are man. You're, yep.
Well, I just detach from all the news. I can't do anything about it, so I just take a deep breath and let it go.
Mm-hmm. How about Springfield? Lockdown? Are you in Springfield or are you at the farm?
I'm at the clinic. The clinic is open. Medical people are allowed to travel. And, you know, we've got almost a full schedule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what are you hearing without, being specific and violating any confidences? Are you hearing anything in general that you can share what people's thoughts are?
Well, there are more people who are annoyed or semi-panicked and anxious than truly seriously ill, at least contacting me. I mean, if we had somebody who, sounded as if they had acute CV-19, I would send them to the hospital. But here at the office, we're just seeing normal stuff.
Well, Dr. Shealy, if they're going to the hospital, seems like the only thing a hospital can do that you can't do would be the ventilator. Is that right?
Well, that is true. However, to keep our clinic in itself, if we had someone who had a high fever, etc., even though I'd like to give them the IV vitamin C, we would prefer to send them to the hospital where they're not likely to get it.
Okay.
You may have seen something about some New York hospitals giving all of 1,500 milligrams a day, IV. We would use
you've been
50,000 milligrams or more.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've been saying since very, very early, actually way before this panic has started, that the vitamin C, IV vitamin C, something like, if not the Myers cocktail, would be the way to go.
Exactly.
I remember you saying that, and I've had them. Yeah. And now the medical industry is taking a very low dose of what you've recommended, and they're touting it as this is the greatest thing. Imagine if they use the full strength, right?
Hey, can't all be perfect like us, Vince, but they sure could try.
Yeah. So, what we're hearing. First of all, I thought we were in Baltimore. For the last few days, I thought this is Baltimore because all the gunshots that we're hearing.
Oh, Vince, I got to tell you about yesterday. Yesterday morning, I looked out the window from my kitchen. There was someone dressed in bright-colored clothes with a towel on her arm walking up the drive. About that time, the farm foreman, Joe, called and said he'd encountered this woman and she was talking nonsense, so I said, call the sheriff. Fortunately, the sheriff came within about 15 minutes, was at the farm, and took her away. She kept babbling about being dropped off by Danny. She was on drugs of some kind, I'm sure. But I'm now locking my car in my in my carport.
Well, if I remember correctly, you've got a gate, don't you?
But the gate
on the farm?
Well, it was closed, but the lock wasn't locked, so she opened it.
I had a dream last night about, what's wrong with our gates, around our farm. And what's wrong with them is they don't have barbed wire wrapped around the top rail. That's what's wrong with them. Well, I've been thinking about that. So, unfortunately, all we have is old, rusty barbed wire. So I'm going to have to make do with that. But I'm concerned about people like the census. They keep sending me this stuff telling me that, don't worry, we're coming to visit you. And I don't want them to visit me. And I don't think I should really spend my valuable time filling out this 8-page questionnaire about who lives here at the farm. Did you get the 8-page version, or did you get the longer version, or what did you get, Dr. Shealy, about the U.S. Census?
I think it was about the long version, and I filled it out.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple for me.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to tell them how many Mexicans live here. I'm not
Did you list your cats?
Well, it says it wants to know what is person number one's race. So, for example, it says, number 9, question number 9. Mark X, one of the more boxes, and print origins. White. Print, for example, so if the person, you check the box for white, and then they want to be a little more specific. And then this is what they are saying. This is not me making this up. So, for example, there are little boxes, and you can write words in the boxes. So if it's white, is it German white, Irish white, English white, Italian white, Lebanese white, or Egyptian white, or etc.? Okay. Now, if it's black, you check the black box, and that's black or African AM. I guess AM stands for American. And then they want to know if it's Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Somali, etc. And then they want to know if it's an American Indian or an Alaskan Native. And they want to know, for example, is it Navajo, Blackfeet, Eskimo, and then they want to know about the Chinese, the Filipinos, the Asian Americans, the other Asians, for example, Pakistani, Cambodian, Hmong, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, Native Hawaiian, Samoan, Chamorro, or other Pacific Islander. So that's just one question. So, I don't think it's any business how many Mexicans live at my farm, or how many Chinese, or how many Germans, or how many Italians. And you know what? I'm looking for the part that says Jewish. I don't see anything that says how many Jews live here. I wonder why that is. Or Catholics.
You're asking.
Or Protestants.
You're asking for common sense?
Well, I'm not doing it. So I've got this form, and I've decided that the best thing I can do, and somewhere it says, like, start here, and it's start here. And it wants to know how many people. Question number 1. How many people were living or staying at this house, apartment, or mobile home on April 1, 2020? And it has 2 boxes, so you can have up to 99 people there. And so I'm just going to...
Check 101.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a plain sheet of notebook paper. I'm going to tear it out, with the 3 holes and the ragged edge and the spiral bound type. And I'm going to leave this, the spiral, the tear off pieces there. And I'm going to write my name and my address, and I'm going to put a number there. And I'm going to say U.S. Census. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to send it in to the, they have a form number somewhere on here. And I'm going to write that piece of paper is that form number. And I'm going to send it in. That's what I'm going to do. Because that's all I'm required to do is tell them how many, not what color or shade or where they came from. I'm not going to do it. It's none of their business. But I know, if it's true to form, somebody's going to be driving up the driveway, which can be really hard because I have to crash through the gate. But maybe they'll hop the gate, but I probably should put something on there saying, caution, this is rusty barbed wire. You might not want to do it. And if that doesn't deter them, maybe the sign that says man-eating dogs might do it. And if that doesn't do it, maybe the sign that says impact range, target.
You're busy training Thomas Jefferson to be the man-eating dog.
Yes, yeah, he's such a good boy. And when we used to leave the farm, I would say, TJ, you have my permission to eat anyone you don't recognize. Yeah. So, Dr. Shealy, this corona thing is really out of control. The numbers keep going up. Last Thursday, I got an email from Joanne, one of our instructors on the East Coast, and it said the number of infected was 65,000. Then she was on the air with me the next morning, and the number was 79,000. Then it was 86,000 that day. And then over the weekend, it hit over 100,000. So it went from 65,000 to over 100,000 in 3 days or 2.5 days. This thing is really taking off, and yet people are saying, you know what? I'm healthy. I'm not worried about it. It's just like the common cold. It's no big deal. I don't know anybody who. I remember when people used to call in sick because they got the cold, the common cold, right? They used to call in sick. And when people got the flu, they were down for a week or two, right? So why is this being treated as it's no big deal?
Well, I think to some extent there's been so much panic and variety of conflict in what's coming from so many different sources. I mean, you can hear exact opposites and worse all the time. So whom do you believe?
Well, that's a really good point. You can't even believe the guy who says it, even if it's the same guy, because there's a guy that wears a suit, a white shirt, he's got his hair combed, used to be more orange, now it's more white, but and he wears a U.S. flag on his lapel. That guy, he hangs out at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He said that he was considering locking down New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And then he said, no, I'm not going to do that, because the governor of New York threatened to sue him. Threatened to sue the U.S. government for locking down and restricting travel. So Cuomo, the governor of New York, was saying, you can't restrict travel. And so I was thinking about that. Let's say he were in charge of our farm, and which couldn't be, because I'm sure he doesn't know how to farm. But if by some stretch of the imagination he could actually manage a farm, and he had a herd of cows, and a few of them were infected, do you think he would say, it's okay, guys, you just all hang out together, and we're not going to worry about, a few cows infecting the rest of the herd? Do you think that makes any sense, Dr. Shealy? Or what would you do? Would you isolate your infected cows?
Of course.
Me too. Class Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. Website is normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And if you want to visit his website and order the vitamins, mineral supplements that I take, you can go to normshealy.com. And we'll talk a little bit more about the supplements you should consider taking in just a minute. Dr. Shealy, so on Friday, just a couple days ago, it was about 86,000 cases. Right now, according to the CDC, it's 123,000 cases. So this thing is really growing extremely quickly, doubling at almost every 2, 3, 4 days, literally. Have you ever, in your medical lifetime, seen anything that caught fire so quickly, that reproduced so quickly as this?
No.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember anything like this. So right now in the United States, there are 2,112 deaths, according to the CDC. But I believe those numbers are not accurate, too, because I believe there's a lag in reporting, and I believe there's a lag in detecting and confirming and testing and so forth. Would you think that these numbers would be accurate, or do you think there's a delay, as I do, Dr. Shealy?
Oh, they're always going to be off. You know, it can be a week before they catch up to last week.
Yeah. I guess about 2 weeks ago, it might be just a little bit longer than 2 weeks ago, we learned in Missouri, made the news that in Greene County, where Springfield is located within Greene County, Missouri, there were 2 confirmed infected people. That was just a few weeks ago. Today, I believe the number is 502. So it went from 2 to 502. I'm sorry, that was Greene County, Missouri. But across the whole state, there's 502, which is an enormous number for such a rural state, except for St. Louis, Springfield, and Kansas City. And it seems that the big cities are where it's spreading like wildfire. Do you think that's because of the sheer number of people, or do you think it's because of the wealth effect, where the wealthy people in the cities seem to make more money, if you want to call it that, than people in rural America, and because they jet set around more, do you think, and congregate more, and rub elbows more, and socialize more? Do you think? What do you think the reason is why the
really,
cities seem to be taking
I think
off?
it's concentration.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And by concentration, are you saying restaurants, subways, schools, theaters, movies?
People among people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what should, if we go to your website, what would you recommend? And we've done this many times, but I think it bears repeating because we have more new students in our class every day. What would you like us to take? And this class, this is not a commercial. Please don't think it is. I think I've tried plenty of vitamins and minerals and supplements in my day, of which there are 68 years worth, I should say. And I like Dr. Shealy's the best. So, Dr. Shealy, what would you recommend?
Of course, again, at the top of the list is vitamin D3, 50,000 units once a week if you weigh 140 pounds or more, and 3 times a month if you weigh under 140. And you should have something like my Essentials, which is an excellent multivitamin B complex. And, of course, use formula with 2 grams of vitamin C and 1 gram of MSM, etc. And astaxanthin. Now, I usually say 10 milligrams for the average person, but right now I would up it to 10 to 20 milligrams a day for the average person. If you're heavyweight, maybe 175 or 80 pounds or more, maybe 30 milligrams a day of astaxanthin. And I would keep on hand some 15 milligrams K2. To get your daily need of K2 out of Dr. Shealy's Essentials. But in case you get the bug or feel as if it's knocking at the door in your body, then you take 3 of the 50,000 unit D3, and I would take 2 or at least 10 milligrams of the K2.
Class, Dr. Shealy's with us, and it looks like I gave you some information that was outdated. I mentioned, and I used rounding, okay, so just round to the up or down, as I was taught in elementary school. So I said 123,000 cases this morning. Well, that was probably a few minutes old. Now it's 143,000 cases right now. Kyle in Montana, welcome. You're on with Dr. Shealy.
Good morning, Dr. Shealy and Vince. How are you doing?
Great. How about y'all?
We are doing good. I got a few questions for you, Dr. Shealy, of some information stuff that I've heard and seen over the last couple of days. So this just happened to a friend of my wife's, and I wanted to read the exact email that my wife got from this lady who lives locally. And it says this, she said this: "For those of you receiving packages from Amazon, please read the following. Stay safe." Okay, that's just what she said. "I received an Amazon delivery this morning. The driver was almost to his truck by the time I opened the door, bent to pick up the box, and said, 'Thank you.' He turned and walked back toward the house, and then he said, 'Ma'am, these deliveries come from the distribution center. We've had positive testing for the virus. Leave the box out here.'" This is no joke. This is a true statement. "Leave the box out here in the sun for 6 to 8 hours, then open the box and take the item out of any packaging before you take it in the house. Leave the box and the packaging outside, then go wash your hands immediately." That was exactly what he told this lady, she says.
Well, it just shows you that there's no way that you can totally avoid contact with this thing.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, one way or another, by accident or purpose, you're almost certainly going to come in contact with it.
Yep. I had another, this is kind of, Vince has been saying almost exactly that same thing for a long time. I give him credit for that. He's always way ahead of the curve, it seems. But I have another question on a couple of different other items that I've heard and done some research on. This doctor was talking the other day on one of the YouTube channels or one of the other channels that I was listening to, and he said this. He said, if you happen to get this virus on your hand and rub your eye, say, he said, that is an entry point into your body. It is a kind of one of those, it's like an invading army slipping through a crack in the wall, okay? But he said, if you get what he called a frontal load of this stuff by kissing someone who is infected or have them cough directly in your face so that it hits your nose, mouth, eyes all at once. He said that is like blowing the wall down and an invading army just overcoming you. And he said the difference is if you wipe your eye and there's a small kind of for lack of a better term, trickle starting toward, into your system, he says your body has a little time to react. But if it's a frontal load, that your body does not have that much time to react before it hits you, and then the overload of this, the power, the severity of it is going to be much worse for you or your body to handle. And I was wondering what you thought of that thought process.
Well, I agree. We're any place into the body. Certainly your eyes, your nose, your mouth are the easiest places to get a hold. But even on the skin, it can get to you.
Okay. Do you think there is a difference, a huge difference, like he was stating, though, if something were to hit you, it makes sense to me, but if you were to kiss someone who had this, that would be a absolutely huge load.
That's more than a triple whammy.
Yeah,
kissing, you wet, your lips are a bit damp, and you just pick up more of the gunk.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense about why so many of these kids that went on spring break are coming back now and getting sick really fast and really bad, it seems.
Yes, that was in my opinion, unwise on their part to go in the first place, considering everything. But then everybody has to make his or her choice.
Okay, and then one last thing, and I mean, I know Vince is probably chomping at the bit to jump in here too, but I've got one last thing that I found very interesting. There was actually a doctor who is one of the doctors on the front line of this in New York City. I heard him talking on a YouTube channel. At least he said he was a doctor in New York City, but he said he worked in the ER and he was dealing with nothing but COVID-19 patients. And he said, I am relieved, actually. Now, get a load of this, right? He said, I'm relieved, actually, that I know I'm not going to get the virus. And he said, well, why can I say that? Because I absolutely am not going to touch my face. And he said 99% of all problems, all of the infections that we can see right now are from people handling, touching surfaces of any kind that are infected with this virus, which and then touching at some point, someplace on their face. And he said, there's just no way I'm ever going to do anything like that. And so I am sure I will not get the virus. And I thought, well, that's really, kind of arrogant and brash. But I was wondering how factual what he said there is.
Well, I don't agree with him totally that you can't get it unless you touch your face, because I think it's easy to get it if you breathe it from somebody close up, that kind of thing. On the other hand, hey, we all have our individual beliefs and propensities.
Sure.
Well, how about this, Dr. Shealy? How about this? So let's say he has the soda machine is just filled up by the guy who just loads up the soda machine with cans of soda, and he kind of sneezes and while he's loading it, and then the soda machine's is loaded, and the doctor just puts his money in there and gets a soda and pops the top, and now he's kissing the can. That's not touching your face. That's kissing the can. Right?
And soda pop, one of the worst things you could take when you're trying to avoid the virus is sugar and junk.
Sure.
Very good point.
Go ahead,
Kyle,
Ben.
I have something to share with you and Dr. Shealy. I bought a portable LED ultraviolet C disinfection lamp that's handheld. Dr. Shealy, this thing is like if you were to take the center core out of a roll of paper towels. It's like that. And it's a glass tube with plastic end caps, and it has an LED ultraviolet C array in it. And it has a power supply to reduce the current and the voltage to power this, so you can plug it in to a 120-volt outlet. And I'm thinking the cord might be 6 or 8 feet long. And so the reason I have this is to, when the mail arrives, the mail carrier is leaving our mail in a specific location where I can go down with a mask, gloves, long sleeve shirt, protective gear, if you will, power up this light from an inverter from a vehicle and shine it on the mail, and then flip it over with, let's say, a stick or something, and then put UV light on the other side. What do you think about that?
UV certainly can kill the virus, but how much it would take, how good it is compared to just plain old soap and water or rubbing alcohol or Lysol, I don't know.
That's a really good point. So I should probably take this census form and wash it in soap and water
Send them a gallon. And just say
well,
it's
I was
inside
thinking,
the bottle.
Take a few days to dry it out and let them know that I took care of it for them. I did wash it. But Kyle brings up a very good point, and that is that the package delivery people are handling all kinds of packages from who knows where. Okay? And there were, at one broadcast about a week ago, I mentioned that there were 6 Amazon warehouses that were infected, and they shut them down. By the end of the broadcast, I checked the news, and there were 10, a total of 10. So it increased from 6 to 10, and now there's at least 10. And I believe that that's what Kyle was talking about with his email from a person that said the package came through one of the infected sites. So now it's U.S., the concern for me is U.S. Mail, Federal Express, United Parcel, DHL if they're still around, whatever these package delivery places are, pizza delivery. People think that, well, it's safe to eat out, because now they're delivering, or curbside service. Well, that seems to me to be false, because how do we know that the people handling the food don't have it, didn't sneeze on it, didn't rub their face, their eyes, their nose?
Let's face it, you just have to take whatever precautions you can and not panic over everything.
Gentlemen, let me read something that is exactly in sync with what we're talking about. And Kyle, this kind of jives. It really does. So there is a website called ProPublica.org, ProPublica.org. Headline: Coronavirus. What happens if workers cutting up the nation's meat get sick? And that's the headline. And it goes on to say, as meat packers rush to meet demand, their employees are starting to get COVID-19. But some workers say they're going to work ill because they don't have paid sick days and can be penalized for staying at home. Here's what's happening in the meatpacking industry last week alone. I don't have enough time to finish this. Kyle, did you want to stay with us?
Sure, I'll say just through one more segment.
Okay. This is quite terrifying, class, and I think it's a heads-up moment. We'll be right back. Shealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com, medical doctor, surgeon of the year, author. And we're talking about the corona panic. And this relates, and Kyle's with us in Montana, this relates to the meat industry and what happens if the nation's meat cutters get sick and meat packers. So the article from ProPublica says, here's what's happening in the meatpacking industry last week alone. A federal food safety inspector in New York City who oversaw meat processing plants died from the illness caused by coronavirus. A poultry worker in Mississippi employed by America's third largest chicken company tested positive for the virus, causing half a dozen workers to self-quarantine. Another worker in South Dakota, employed by the world's largest pork producer, also tested positive. In Georgia, dozens of workers walked out of a Purdue Farms chicken plant, demanding that the company do more to protect them. And Tyson Foods told ProPublica on Friday that a limited number of team members have tested positive for the disease.
That means the virus has its favorite place, fresh meat.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like it's throughout the meat industry because it's beef, chicken, and pork. And those are the, other than dog meat, cat meat, and horse meat, that's pretty much it. So that's in the food supply. It's in the meat food supply. So now
Unless
the question...
you go out and catch it on a pole yourself, it's probably not wise to buy meat these days.
Yeah. So we were talking to... Boy, the phone's been ringing off the hook here at the farm. And people are telling us what they're doing about, shopping. And on the East Coast, it seems like you can get, more things that you'd like to buy for food than you can here in Missouri. So in the East Coast, what's happening is people don't want to go to the supermarkets. So there's a supermarket chain called ShopRite, ShopRite. I think that's how they spell it. And what you do is you go on the internet and you just pick and click what you want. So if you want peanut butter, you say, I want Jif or Skippy. Or if you want lettuce, you click all these items, then they give you an appointment time. And you show up with your car at that time. And then you have about 45 minutes to click all the things that you want. Then you pay for it. Then you with your card. And then you go at the appointed time and you say, I'm number 27 or something like that. And then the person will take a cart and race around the store, throw everything in the cart. But if you order Jiffy and they don't have Jiffy, they're not going to give you Skippy. They just give you what you want. So what's happening is people are getting less than their requested order. And that's because if you went by yourself, you could say, well, let me substitute, one kind of peanut butter for another. Or if they don't have this size, let me get the next smaller or next larger size. But they're not doing that. So the decision-making of what do you do if they're out of something is taken out of the equation. You just flat out don't get it. So the answer then is, okay, put Jiffy and Skip there and put all the sizes. Now you get like 16. If they have it, you get all 16. So it's a mess. And that's because people are in a panic. But we're talking about meat. So what happens if you buy fresh meat? Well, what happens if the guy that's picking your order has got the coronavirus and handles your package? Now what? So what they're doing is they're wiping them down with Clorox wipes. But that doesn't fix what's inside the package. That only fixes what's outside the package, and maybe only partially. Dr. Shealy, your thoughts?
I'm not going to the store.
Yeah.
Kyle, what are your thoughts? Yes.
Well, I got a question. Dr. Shealy, surely cooking the meat would kill it, correct?
Well, but you got to get it out of the package without touching it. Get it into the pound, clean up the packet, into the pan, and don't touch it with your hands. You got to be very careful. Yes, cooking would kill the virus.
Sure.
Don't eat it rare these days.
Right. And then make sure you wash your hands after you got it in the pan and that kind of stuff. Make sure you clean up. But I was curious about something, Vince. So when we were on break, I went on the internet there and found out that there is 110 Amazon distribution centers in North America, and 75 of them are in the U.S. And I was thinking to myself, if 10 of them have the virus in them already, that's almost like playing Russian roulette if somebody wants to, because that's about a 14% chance that you're going to get a package. And depending on where you are, that might be a lot higher because it might only come out of those particular distribution centers. But
yeah, if you increase that revolver cylinder from 6 to 7, yeah, it is Russian roulette.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. All right, Ben. Thank you. You guys have a great day. Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. That was Kyle in Montana. Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back. If you'd like to call, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. All right, so I'll repeat that number one more time. 866-582-9933 if you've got some questions for Dr. Shealy or me. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. Website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com, normshealy.com. Todd in Michigan, welcome. You're on with Dr. Shealy and me.
Morning, gentlemen. Hope everyone is well.
Yeah, we're over here. We're under lockdown at the farm. Dr. Shealy's.
Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for that cocked and locked statement because I'm cocked and locked now. I got another weapon. So I call.
Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, it's a Smith & Wesson D9 9mm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 16-shotter. I haven't even shot it yet. It's all cleaned up and ready to go, though.
Okay, well, make sure that you know how to use it, and
I've already
make
went
sure
through the field dress. It looks brand new, better than it did when it came out of the box.
Great. Okay. All right, and have you tested the ammunition, or are you going to test the ammunition?
Yeah, I'd like to do it here on your show if you don't mind.
Sure, it's okay with me. Just aim it in a safe direction.
How many shots do you want?
Now, how many you got?
16. I don't have one in the chamber.
Oh, wait a minute. You only have one magazine?
Well, it's in the house, the other one.
Yeah, well, it ought to be with you. Yeah, no, you don't have to test it out here. But so, what made you do this, Todd? That's okay. Well, I'd have to respond and unload mine as well. But what about Lucille? I see that there's the word Lucille on the call screen.
Yeah, I was just wondering what kind of figure she had.
Well, she's slim. She's big on the top, on the business end, and she's slim, and then there's a big foot on the bottom. Kind of looks like a baseball bat.
Just 1 foot?
Lucille. So, class, for those of you who don't know who Lucille is, there is a television series. It's fiction. It's called The Walking Dead. And one of the characters in The Walking Dead was an educator. And when he met people for the first time, he would train them very quickly. And he would bring out, in his wife's honor, a baseball bat wrapped with barbed wire on the business end. So, and then it would get all bloody. And so that's how he would train people to pay attention very, very quickly. And he named this baseball bat Lucille. So that's what Todd is talking about. And for those of you who have not seen The Walking Dead, I suggest you watch it because it is the coronavirus and the resulting panic that ensued from the virus. Who do you trust? Who wants whatever you've got? Who is going to steal it from you? Who is going to kill you for it? And the guy who brought Lucille around with him, his name was Negan, and Negan would come up to people and he would say, we're going to take half of what you got, and we're going to tell you which half. That's what he would do. So that's the roving band, the marauders, that you can envision as a result of the corona panic in certain locations. I'm looking right now at some footage in New York City. Now, here's something really interesting, and Todd, you may want to respond to this. So on Friday, there was one death every 12 minutes. Now, these are the good old days. Friday. That's just a couple days ago, right? One death every 12 minutes. Saturday, it was one death every 10 minutes in New York City. Today, right now, it's one death every 4 minutes related to the coronavirus. Any comments, Todd, about that?
We need more hospital ships, that's for one thing.
Well, I'll tell you what they're doing. They are loading these dead bodies wrapped in plastic bags with a forklift in refrigerated trucks. Right now. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Do they have videotape of it?
Well, just go to dailymail.co.uk and you'll see it.
Okay.
It's titled New York NYC's Virus Horror. New York City's Virus Horror. Leading story.
We've got one case of COVID-19 here in our county.
That you know of?
Yeah, that I know of, right.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Dr. Shealy, any comments about loading bodies into refrigerated trucks?
Well, a good place to keep the virus alive in a frozen situation. It's definitely not killed by freezing.
Well, and literally, we are we're watching the loading of these bodies with a forklift. Now, that's completely foreign to us here in the United States because, we treat the dead with respect. Now we treat them with a forklift. But, so Dr. Shealy, how long do you think that this virus can remain active on a dead body in a refrigerated truck? Do you have a thought?
I would think a month or more, at least. I don't think it would go away.
So what's probably happening is the handlers of, the guy driving the forklift, the guy driving the 18-wheeler. This is an 18-wheeler truck. This is not a pickup truck. These bodies are lined up along, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bodies I can see in a line, head to toe, on one side of the truck, and 5 bodies on the other side, but there might be 6 or so. So, and then they haven't filled up the middle. So I have a feeling that they're going to just stack these bodies in there until the truck's full. So 98 people died in New York City hospitals in 7 hours. That's one every 4.3 minutes. And so that rate of death doubled in just a couple days, starting Friday when there were 12. One every 12 minutes, and now it's one every 4 minutes. Okay, anything else you want to share with us, Todd?
No, cocked and locked, thanks.
Okay, one last question. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough food and provisions?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay, now, Todd, let me ask you one more question. What would your reaction be if you overheard a police officer or a former police officer saying, "I don't need no food, I got me a gun"? What would you say to that? Because I heard one say that.
What would I say to him personally?
Yeah.
Let's see your gun.
Okay. All right. Well, I heard a former cop say, I don't need any preparedness, supplies, food. I got me a gun. And what he was saying is, I'll just go get it. So y'all just, store it for me, and I'll just come get it when I need it. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, the wife didn't mind picking up a new pistol.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good, Todd.
Too.
Very good, Todd. Hey, thanks for calling in.
You bet. Talk to you.
When the odd woman arrived in my yard on Saturday, I did call out, "I've got a black widow pistol here, get away."
Mm-hmm. Yep. There you go. So during our training exercises with Mike Ma and Dr. Shealy, I know you know Mike Ma, we did some home invasion training. And I don't think there's much of a substitute for a shotgun. I was shot multiple times with one of the guys in the training class with us. Had a shotgun. He just pummeled me with it. So I still have the evidence. If I look at my body, I can still see where I was bleeding from being shot with these really hard wax bullets. When I say wax, I'm talking like crayon wax, not like soft, pliable wax. Well, it looks really serious that it's getting worse. And in Rhode Island was going to stop and check licenses. Anyone from New York would be stopped, and there was a kind of a war between the governors. And it looks like Cuomo of New York said, "We'll sue you," and so Rhode Island backed down. Amazing. I think Rhode Island was doing the right thing. So if you've got a hot spot, an epicenter of the coronavirus, the last thing you want is people showing up. And I've talked to some of our neighbors here in Missouri, and I think it would be terrible, absolutely terrible. I think the gunfire would increase over what it's already doing if people are just practicing now, just making sure they can just reach out, with precision to the end of their driveways. And I think it'll get worse if people show up from other states and want to take the supplies that are already here. David in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Dr. Shealy and me.
How you doing? It was hard for me to get through to you guys today. I didn't think I was going to get through.
David, you always say the same thing. How you doing?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask the doctor a couple questions. But real quick, the guy in Michigan had bought some of them pistols. The place that I order from, they have pistols and they do have factory mags, because I personally like to have at least 5 mags per handgun. So I still managed to get some, because I bought a new pistol not long ago, and I got factory mags, because I finally got a hold of one of those Caltech PMR 30s, 22 Magnums. And you can still get factory mags and parts out there, but there's some suppliers that still have quite a bit of weapons.
Well, let's just mention why do you like factory mags, David, instead of non-factory mags? What's the big deal?
I know they know they're going to work. If it's a good supplier, they're going to warranty it. And it would be people would be shocked that a lot of people either they take a weapon, they purchase it, they don't break it in, or they don't test the functionality. And if it doesn't work right off the bat, they think something's wrong with it. And it could be a simple mag. And if it's a good company, they'll just send you another mag. I mean, because a mag can make that thing, malfunction, and you don't need that at that time.
What David is saying is absolutely correct. So you can buy a magazine for your handgun, your pistol, let's say, and let's say it's a Ruger, and you buy one that is made by some company that you might not have heard of, and it looks the same, but it may not function properly. And the last thing that you want to do is pop that magazine in there, expect it to work, and find out that it does not work. That is a common situation with magazines that are not factory. Common, but yet they're everywhere, and you can buy them on the internet. Matter of fact, if you buy a used magazine and somebody dropped it, just dropping it can dent it just a little bit so it won't feed properly, and it can cost you your life. So, David, do you agree with that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us, David? We're going into a break.
Yes, I was going to ask him a question.
All right, hold. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, normshealy.com. That's the place to go and get your vitamins, minerals, and supplements. normshealy.com, normshealy.com. David in Illinois is with us. George is on hold. David, please continue.
The question I was going to ask him, now, the lady at the house here, she has an appointment at a major university medical university in St. Louis, SLU. Now, she asked me my opinion about whether she should go to that appointment or not in those tests, and my opinion is, and I want to make sure if you think I'm correct on this, it's a non-necessity thing, so she'll be going right in the middle of the situation, and possibly, okay, you go to an appointment, now you got to worry about possibly being on a respirator in a month. So if it's something that could be put off, wouldn't it be better, like I told her, if you're fine, you should put that off as long as you can until this is
unequivocal.
Okay. Yes.
David, let me weigh in, please. I had an appointment probably very close to that, if not the same place. And this was about 2 months ago. And I asked Mrs. Finelli to postpone my checkup because it was not essential. It was a nice to have, but not essential. So I postponed mine. Now, the reason I postponed it is it's almost impossible to get an appointment. And at the time, I didn't know how long this thing would continue. So we moved it out like a year. And I don't think that was enough. My belief is this thing is going to be around for a couple of years at least. That's my take on this. I don't think this is going to peter out because of the GDP. I think they're spreading it with their carelessness and their recklessness and the failure to lock down. I mean, in the farm, Dr. Shealy and I agree that if we had some cows that were communicable and they had a disease, we would certainly isolate them. It's insanity not to. Okay, but our government is saying, well, you have a right to be happy, you have the right to travel, you have the right to infect other people, you have the right to spit on produce, and if you do, we'll just happen to arrest you. But they're not taking this as seriously as I think they should. So because of that, I'm not traveling, and I'm certainly not going to any hospital. If I break my leg, I'm going to we're going to have to read up on how to set my leg, or maybe call Dr. Shealy.
Now,
I'm serious.
A couple other questions. A lot of people, they were research scientists, were stating that it probably wouldn't spread as quickly if you were in a humid environment and warm. Well, if I've never been to New Orleans, but isn't that place hot and humid?
Yes, yes, it is.
And isn't Florida hot and humid?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to. The other question, really quick, I'll let somebody else get on here. A lot of people on other shows are stating that all this we're seeing on the news with people in hospitals and these videos coming out, and just like when the video where you discussed about the bodies, this is all staged and it's false and it's not happening. How can they, in my opinion, how can they get all this to go and happen and keep it all hush-hush and make it, and everybody go and say, okay, yeah, we're going to go along with this and make this all and nobody come out and say, well, this is all fake. We're not really here doing this. I mean,
my biggest question is when do you believe anything in the media? I gave up listening and paying attention to the media decades ago. I wouldn't trust them to tell me the day.
I think what David is asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is, how would it be possible to get so many heads of state throughout the world to go along with this without leaking that, assuming that this were fake? How would it be possible to get so many heads of state, so many captains of industry, so many businesses to shut down, so many people to say that they're infected, have 1 out of 5 New York police officers feel the symptoms and call in sick? How is it possible that all that would happen if it were not true? I think that's what you're saying, David. I think you're saying it is true. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. We're in the same camp, and I've been saying exactly that for almost since it's begun. And tomorrow is the day before I call one of my fellow broadcasters and say, remember when you said this was going to be over in 3 weeks? Well, Wednesday is 3 weeks, and it's out of control now. So I have to call him and say, I think you were wrong. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. David is finishing up. George is on hold. David, last thoughts?
Yes. The people buying I think this is important to say, people buying all the firearms for the first time, just make sure you know how to use it and safely, because what you do, and if there's an accident, it's going to affect the rest of us.
To my ass, and I'm going to see them back.
The other thing I was going to say is, and make sure they're giving you the right ammo. I went to pick up 30-30 ammo, and they mixed up 30-06s, and the guy thought it was the same thing. So make sure you know what you're getting.
Wow. Unbelievable. That's an incredible mistake. Incredible mistake. Okay, David, thanks so much for weighing in.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right, bye-bye. George in New Hampshire, welcome. You're on with Dr. Shealy.
Hi, Dr. Shealy. Hey, Vincent.
Good morning.
Morning. I was going to ask you a couple of things, more suggestion and question. One is, I've heard of the antibacterial properties that our ancestors knew about with silver, like sterling silver or regular silver, that I bought a sterling silver fork over the summer. And what I was going to do, I figured, I know the blue blood, so to speak, the royalty, they always ate on silver because they said, I guess it gave them, there was a certain immunizing effect. And I was wondering, Dr. Shealy, what you think, and Vincent, what do you think about the idea of, if you can, using silver, even if it means boiling a silver coin in water and just leaving the water, if it might be like a primitive form of like the colloidal silver?
I don't think that it would give you as much as colloidal silver, but it couldn't hurt if you cleaned it or boiled it first.
Okay.
So,
Vincent, what do you think?
Well, here's what I know for sure. We had a farm in Virginia. We put in a swimming pool, and instead of the traditional chlorine treatment to kill bacteria, I installed a silver and copper ionizer. And what this was very simple. It had 2 ingots of copper-silver alloy, and the water from the pool pump would pass through it. So 2 ingots, think of it like briquettes, charcoal briquettes, the shaped type of charcoal briquettes, and there would be an electrode wire on each one, and a very low current and low voltage would be applied to each of the ingots, plus on one and minus on the other. And the ions would be released from these ingots into the water. And these very small ingots of alloy would last years. So we're talking a very small amount of silver and copper ions being put in the water. And it would keep that pool crystal clear. You could tell whether a dime were heads or tails at the bottom of the pool, 8 feet deep. Okay, so does it prevent bacteria and algae? Absolutely, no question about it. The other thing, or 2 other things, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. That meant pretty well off, and that's exactly what you were talking about with the blue bloods eating with silver implements rather than wood in the days of old, or maybe iron. And the other thing is, those who ventured out west didn't have refrigeration as those who stayed on the East Coast in the earlier days of our country. And what they would do is put a silver coin, like a $50, in the milk, and it would keep longer. And just drop it right in there. So obviously you wouldn't want to do that with today's currency because we haven't had silver for quite a while. But if you have a pre-1964 token, like a dime, $50, a quarter, a silver dollar, and if you cleaned it and disinfected it, you might find the same result as those who traveled west and put a silver coin in a U.S. silver coin in their milk. So I'm sure you've heard that too, George.
Yeah. I had. They said it was popular in the colonial days, especially.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing, you know how the 3 R's were reading and writing and arithmetic. Well, I've come up with 3 R's now that I think might be appropriate for the time. And one is reinforce, ration, and renew. A lot of people are going to be losing weight if this thing lasts any amount of time. Probably unfortunately, a lot of our fellow Americans, and I'm not judging them, but let's just say partly the diet, partly the inactivity, so on and so forth, they're overweight. And let's just say they'll be burning through some of those reserves for a number of reasons. The other thing is, too, if you live in a house or a home or even an apartment building, you're going to have to reinforce your doors or your windows, or just find places where somebody might break in, because as this thing continues and the police are otherwise engaged or they're under quarantine because they've contracted this disease, they're not going to be as available, and there's always a certain element that are going to take advantages of crisis. And sometimes just reinforce the downstairs windows, like in your basement, where somebody could just break it and slip in. And like I said, you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and find out you might have an intruder in the home. And it's an ounce of prevention, as they say. And I'll just say this. It's like a tree that grew up, and then over a period of time, certain sections of the tree are dying or dead, and they're rotten. And what we're going to find out in this country, there's a lot of rottenness in the country on various levels. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things, as Dr. Shealy, I'm sure you'll agree, that the pharmakia, which I believe the Bible referred to in the latter days, translated out to sorcery, and a lot of the potions and whatnot. Well, a lot of the unhealthy potions that are given more to get you adapted onto the drugs as opposed to actually finding real wellness, it breaches the immune systems, and certain lifestyles also breach the immune system. And when this thing hits that immune system, it's going to find all kinds of weaknesses in the defenses. I don't want to go on and on because I know you and Dr. Shealy have a lot to cover, but I'll just say that, this is either going to pull the country together or pull apart. And remember, too, there are two types of men who carry guns, or women for that matter, but I'd say in the main men, because the men, I don't know if some deserve the term manhood, but the idea is there's the person who prays they never have to use it, but then there's the other type that can't wait to use it, and they think it's going to basically puff them up and make them real men because they shot somebody. When you carry a gun, it's a tremendous responsibility. You have to take responsibility because you literally have life and death in your hands. And remember, desperate people, they were your neighbors, they're people in the community. Sometimes all they need is some guidance. Sure, you got to prevent certain people from picking on the weaker people and the other things. But I'm just saying is that a gun is a tool. It's not an answer to all the problems. And it's like a man running around with a hammer. Everything looks like a nail. What do you think?
Dr. Shealy, your thoughts?
Right on.
Okay. We live in the middle of nowhere. And so there was a pack of coyotes that decided they were going to have dinner one night. And they took down one of our cows, our little calves just born recently. And, we can't allow that. So we have to respond. And are we prepared? Yeah, we are. But do we want to? No. But we can't let them have their way with our little newborn calves. So you're right. It is a tremendous responsibility. And that's one of the reasons why you hear some of the gunshots around here. People are protecting their herds. That's what farmers do. Shepherds do the same thing. George, I had a question for you and for Dr. Shealy. I'm so glad you called in. I was going to ask David as well, and Kyle, but I didn't. Are you finding in your world, George, that people have shorter fuses and they're more forgetful? Because I got a call this morning before the broadcast started, and I'm seeing that. I'm seeing people are more forgetful, and they're saying they're more forgetful, and people are becoming more angry, shorter fuses. Are you seeing that in your world in New Hampshire?
Well, yes, I'm glad you reminded me of this because I have a family member who's in a particular job where he has somebody who works with him who happens to be a bail bondsman on the side. And what he's saying is that early out in this panic, or early part of the panic, they said they were cleaning out the alcohol shelves. And they said the number of domestic violence cases have gone up tremendously since this has happened because a lot of people now are forced together, probably for the first time in a long time, they're forced together. And then a lot of people define themselves by their jobs, and that's not always a good thing either. Yes, you work to live. You don't live. You work to live. You don't live to work. But the thing of it is that they're saying that the domestics, and I've seen it as I'm walking down the street. I see a young woman with a cell phone, and all of a sudden the police pull up and they get out, and they're talking. She's talking to somebody on the phone, and I had heard this statistic from my son. In fact, this is who told me. And anyway, then I see the flashing lights going and the police going somewhere else. So what I'm saying is that a lot of times the husband's home now for the first time, and he's kind of anxious and depressed and whatnot, and the wife's there. And after a while they get in each other's way, and they find out in a lot of ways they're strangers, unfortunately, in too many cases where, basically they both were leading their own lives and just basically shared the same house. So I see that, but I also see that life is continuing pretty much as it has been in a lot of ways. And also, thank God we're in this country in the sense, for a number of reasons, but in this sense, and that is that even in the midst of these disruptions, we're in a country where the stores are still being restocked, and we're still getting different things coming into the stores. In other words, a lot of these other poor countries, if something like this hit, they don't have the resources. Now, you're seeing the weaknesses in the system, that's for sure.
Dr. Shealy, are you seeing shorter fuses, people more forgetful in your world as well?
Actually, relatively little. Either they're not contacting me or I don't know. But I haven't seen much. I'm sure it's happening, of course. But I think my particular practice, it isn't happening.
How about shorter fuses? Are you hearing or seeing more domestic strife, as George is talking about? Because that's what I've been alerted to through some of the conversations that I've had, more domestic strife.
Again, I'm not being made aware of it. It may be happening, but it doesn't come to my attention.
Okay. When we come back, Dr. Shealy, and George, you can certainly stay with us if you'd like. I'd like to ask you about Alzheimer's. Over the weekend, one of our dear friends' wife has Alzheimer's, and it's getting really bad. What can we do for her? We'll be right back with Dr. Shealy and George in New Hampshire. Dr. Shealy's with us. George in New Hampshire's with us. Dr. Shealy, so over the weekend, I was talking with a dear friend. His wife, in her 60s, has a serious case of Alzheimer's. What can we do to help her?
Well, of course, the basic supplements, always, they're very low in those. And the cranial gamma PEF device, I have found in a number of cases to be very useful.
Okay. All right. I can let them know about that. And is there any food they should...
Dr. Shealy, could you just repeat that device, that cranial device?
The Shealy Soren Gamma PEMF, pulse electromagnetic frequency device. It's my single favorite all-time electronic gadget.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Shealy, is there anything that she should not eat or do?
Well, obviously junk food, sugar, that kind of stuff. But other than that,
okay,
a well-rounded diet is good.
Okay. Let's see. And for those who are becoming more forgetful and have shorter fuses, which I believe is absolutely true, do you think it is maybe Earth changes? Could it be the Musk, Elon Musk satellites with their 5G transmissions overhead? Could it be stress?
Of course.
What do you think it could be?
Well, it could be all kinds of things, but I would also try taurine. Taurine is a calming, natural, safe calming agent for the nervous system.
Okay. And how much taurine should a person take who's feeling more anxious, more stress?
About 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day.
3 to 4 kmg. Okay, 3 to 4,000 milligrams per day. Dr. Shealy, when we were growing up, I never remember people coughing on food in a supermarket, for fun. And there was this moron, this social influencer gal, I think she was 22 years old, and so she decided to, she was annoyed because the corona panic is getting more traction than she is. So she was on an airline, took a selfie, and she was licking a toilet seat. And so she gave the toilet seat licking challenge to people. And some other moron, even dumber than she, decided to take her up on it and is hospitalized now for licking a toilet seat. Have you ever heard of such nonsense when you were growing up? Because I never did.
No. It's exaggerated, to say the least.
George, how about you?
I knew before it was like, in the old days, it was like how many people could fit into a telephone booth, or somebody might swallow a goldfish or something. But they should get the Darwin's Award, just put it mildly, where, in other words, they're going to, I hate to say it, they're going to be eliminated from the human race soon if they keep practicing things like that.
My son said something. It was absolutely cruel. We were talking about this, and he said, "Well, it's more potato chips for us."
Hey, we need a little humor today.
And it's kind of sad that something like that would come out of his mouth. but he's looking at things pragmatically, and people are doing some really, really dumb things. And now today, getting in one of those phone booths, or how many people would fit in a Volkswagen, Bug, that was another one. But now you'd have to be, suicidal to do that, because you could get the coronavirus from that, squeezing 9 people in a phone booth. Or 14 in a Volkswagen. Yeah. Okay, so we're doing some stupid things, and things that I just can't imagine anybody saying, would you look at me? I've got a video of this, and watch me, and then they get arrested for these stupid things. Dr. Shealy, to plant a garden, okay, we expanded our garden over the weekend.
I did mine
anyone who
on
has a
Friday.
garden? Okay, what did you do?
I did my spring garden on Friday, and as you know, I always do the Old Farmer's Almanac calendar to be sure I plant the right thing on the right days.
Right. Okay, so what did you plant, Dr. Shealy, and what do you recommend that we plant in our gardens?
Chinese cabbage, celery, lettuce, spinach, all the leafy vegetables especially. And
so we're talking greens.
Well, yeah, but actually that was a good day also for planting root crops. So I planted some purple carrots and some big beets.
Okay, so here it is, class. If you have a garden, make it bigger. If you don't have a garden, start one. And if you can't have a garden, get some buckets and some soil, 5-gallon buckets, and have a bucket garden on your balcony or your veranda or your back steps, whatever you have to do. But do something, because getting greens at the grocery store is going to be really risky, and having some shopper pick them up for you at one of these curbside services is going to be risky. So, yeah. And it's going to be a problem. And meat, that's going to be a really big problem. And we're working on that. And maybe that's what we're going to have to do to save the farm. George, thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Shealy.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, may God help us. Dr. Shealy, thank you.